Hi guys, welcome to the Town of Wallkill podcast. I'm calling it TOWTalk because it's so much easier than TOWTalk. Anyway, we're having fun. It's Saturday, August 16th. My God. It's hard to believe we are nearly, 7 months into this shit storm? Okay, never mind. Anyway, I wanted to start off on something that isn't actually small town related, but definitely of interest that I think it does impact small communities. And I just thought it was wild. And this has been going viral, maybe more so in Canada than here. But here's the story. In the state of Maine, there is a senator, Senator Joseph E. Martin, for the
local state senator.
Right, he's from the state legislature of Maine. He decided to send a letter of invitation to Western Canada to join the United States. He just kind of did this at the beginning of the month. It's an undated letter. It's lots of pages. Sorry, it's not coming up on the camera, but it's like 4 pages long, very wordy. And the arrogance in this letter is unconscionable. So I'm just going to read like maybe the first couple of paragraphs so you can kind of get the gist of where we're going. The MLA Brennan Day of Canada, from Courtenay Comox, opposition critic for rural and seniors health and proudly Canadian, wrote a scathing response, but in the most polite manner that you could expect from any Canadian. It was actually beautifully done. But just listen to this, and this is what a state legislator senator thought it was a good idea to send to Canada. So let me get my mic over here. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. So the title is A Vision for Welcoming Western Canada into the United States. The strength of the United States lies in its fidelity to the Constitution. Its emphasis on national sovereignty and its roots in Western civilization, Christianity, and personal responsibility. I'm guessing the rest of the religions just don't matter here. These principles are not negotiable, and they must form the foundation of any expansion of the Union. If the Canadian provinces of British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba were to seek admission into the United States, it must be as full American states. Were they even looking? Not provinces with conditions or dual allegiance. They would come into the fold by the consent of their people and the invitation of a constitutional guided republic. There would be no hybrid governance, no special carve-outs, and certainly no Canadian political baggage. Who wants that? Sorry, Canada. The path forward would not be about convenience or economic expansion alone, but about the reaffirmation of liberty, state sovereignty, and national identity. A union of this kind would not dilute the American experiment. It would only strengthen it, fortify it, and renew it with citizens who have consciously chosen Americanism over Canadian federalism. This would not be annexation, it would be adoption, welcoming home kindred spirits who were born under a different flag, who desire to live under our Constitution and accept our responsibilities, customs, and traditions. What the fuck? This is how a friendly invitation to join our country. Give up your whole country, give up all your ideals. You either believe what we believe, and you just better come anyway.
No, not what we believe. What he believes.
Correct. I'm sorry.
All right, you have to remember, America, the whole point of being an American is that America can mean something different to every individual.
Absolutely.
Okay? That's the point of freedom. Okay? And there's a reason why I have the picture behind me, right, is because we are living in a dumpster fire, right? And for anybody who says, no, that's a Tesla, No, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah. I'm
Please
just
continue.
Please continue. My God, this goes on. Let's see. I can try to paraphrase, but there's just so much in here. Is the next section. The Constitution, terms of union, not suggestions. Any admission of new states must be governed strictly by the U.S. Constitution. Article 4, Section 3 grants Congress the authority to admit new states into the Union. Precedents such as the admission of Texas, Hawaii, and even parts of Mexico under the 1845 to 1848 expansionary period show that voluntary union is both legal and historically grounded. Blah, blah, blah. This must occur under such rules and apply to all states. There can be no special terms or exemptions.
I have a question then. I have a
Yeah.
question. Right. Um, if we're saying statehood and we're having this conversation, what about Puerto Rico? They voted twice for statehood, and they have not been granted it yet.
Yeah.
And you're talking about bringing people in and giving them statehood right there.
Right there. And believe me, I would love to have Puerto Rico as a state, but apparently they always vote down, and we all know why. We all know why. It has,
No, they've never actually voted. They refused to take the vote.
But Puerto Rico has said has expressed.
Puerto Rico has voted, and they've said that they want statehood. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So here we are. I guess they want. I think they're looking for all of North America, because while this is going on here, they've also, I guess it was in Rolling Stone magazine, reported that apparently there are plans for us to go into Mexico and go after cartels. Under the guise of going for cartels. So yeah, they're looking to take over all of North America.
Well, you say that, but the administration struck a deal with a number of cartels to allow them asylum in the United States. So, you got to ask the question, like, really, what are they talking about?
Competition? I'm sure they're right. Just a thought. So let's see. Let's go through this. I don't want to go through this. Letter is really long. Could take me a half an hour to read it all. Sovereignty, American. Here's another one. Sovereignty and identity. American, not North American. Statehood under the U.S. Constitution means more than a change in passport. It demands an embrace of American identity. Historically grounded, civic-minded, and fundamentally national. True conservatives reject the globalist mindset that sees borders as inconveniences or cultures as interchangeable. Americanism is a real, tangible tradition rooted in Anglo-American law, Greco-Roman philosophy, and Christian moral order. It values family, localism, moral restraint, and individual accountability. What the fuck is happening here?
I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, it's a lot of big giant word salad. That sounds to me, in summary, that says
here's what I'm gonna say. There are a lot of immigrants in this country who came to this country looking for freedom, looking for the American dream, right? Who are now getting locked in concentration camps and getting locked in cages, right? And not allowed to achieve their American dream. And, for all those people that are like, well, I don't want my tax dollars. Well, a lot of these immigrants have been in the country for a long time. They've accumulated a lot of debt. And guess what? Now your tax dollars are paying to forgive their debt.
Right. Yep.
So, and you're paying all this money. You're paying now hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? Per person. To have them locked in cages. Right? And there are people out there that think, "Oh, well, that's better than providing them health care." Right? Which is actually now cheaper. Right? Cheaper. Which is now actually much cheaper. for that, if you were to actually just insure them rather than locking them up. I mean, this has gone beyond. This is no longer about good policy. It's not about saving money. It's not about any of that stuff because these guys are just spending money hand over fist.
Oh,
It's just a it's they're just they're all about themselves, and this is all about. I've said it all the time. People can see me say it all the time, right? They're not coming into our communities, right? With masks, right, and plain clothes. They're coming in white cloaks, burning crosses.
yeah,
That's it. That's it. That's the end of the story.
yeah,
Okay? I mean, you don't need to go back far in our history to visualize that.
yeah.
That's all it is.
And that's what's so sad to see what's
Yeah.
happening here. And so, of course, they want Canada because Canada is a paler is a paler country than Puerto Rico.
Listen, Canada has, just like America, there are a lot of people who immigrated to Canada.
Absolutely.
They have a very diverse culture, a very diverse population. They're very nice. If they do like music from 10 years ago, I mean, more power to them. I still listen to my '90s music, so all
So do
good.
I. They're very progressive. I
Yeah,
love Canada.
Canada's great.
And but this is just I just felt that this was rather nervy in the sense that.
Do you
Go ahead.
do you want to know what one of my favorite Canada stories is?
Go
Right, and I
ahead.
read it in a book. It was from a long time ago. So back around the same time the United States banned cannabis, right? Canada also, on the request of the United States, banned cannabis, right? And they banned the growing of cannabis. And cannabis used to actually grow in the wild in Canada,
Oh, really? I
right?
didn't know
It
that.
used to just grow in the wild. So what they did is the Canadian government burned down the fields, right? Like they literally just decimated all the cannabis in Canada. So they go to this nice old lady's house, okay? They go to this nice old lady's house and they told her, you know, cannabis is now illegal. You need to burn down your fields. All right. And she said, no. She just flat out said no. She said that I enjoy hanging out in my yard and listening to the birds sing, and my plants make the birds sing. And you will not ever deny me of that. And that's what she said. And you know what? That's Canadian for you. That's Canada for you.
Good for her.
Right. It's just, these are the type of people that they are. They're good people.
Yeah,
Just
they
like,
are.
just like a lot of Americans. They're good people. Just like a lot of the immigrants that come to this country. They're good people.
And
They're
let's
they're
not
just
forget
trying to
those.
make a living.
And you know what? They pay a lot into taxes too.
Yes.
I had done some research, and of course, I've had arguments with this all over social media, but the entire immigrant population in, I believe, 2023, you really can't get good records for 2024 because they were all being cooked since the new year. But in 2023, I believe the total amount of tax revenue and tax and social security revenue was in the neighborhood of $650 billion from all immigrants, legal, otherwise, permanent residents, whatever. Of that, about 100 billion of that, 95 billion, whatever, represented what came from undocumented immigrants, from taxes, social security, and into the Medicare Medicaid system. So that's all revenue loss because, not just, I mean, people are leaving if we lose
But
our
you,
immigrants.
but it's not. Listen, you don't even need to go to the. I mean, those statistics are like way up in the air. All you need to do is look at what just happened in Nebraska. Nebraska's bankrupt. Okay, it
Really?
was reported in the paper, and it was been reported that the Nebraska governor, right, sent a letter to the administration saying his state is bankrupt. Okay, that they have a $300 million deficit, and that they're going to run out of money in 2 to 3 months and not have any more money to pay anybody. Right, all the immigrants left the state. right? So they have nobody working their farms. And the Chinese had $3 billion in contracts, right, with Nebraska farmers to produce soybeans. All the soybeans are in the ground growing, right? So all the farmers have spent all their money and put it in the ground. And now you have the state which now collects $300 million not only from the taxes of the immigrants but from the contract itself with China, which as a result of the tariffs were canceled. So now Nebraska has this huge budgetary hole, and what's going to happen now? Who's going to bail them out? Because it's going to be New Yorkers, it's going to be Californians, it's going to be Illinoisans, right? It's going to be the states that actually have money coming in that are going to have to go in and bail Nebraska out. And you know why? Because we are the United States of America. When one of us falls, another one picks you up. And that is what we all believe in the North. And that isn't weakness. Okay, that is strength in our community.
Exactly. Exactly. And I
right?
think that's what's being lost. That's something that's being lost right now.
Well, it's interesting because what you have is when you have states like New York and California, right, even North Carolina, that's asked for money as a result of disasters that happened to them, right? All these other states are saying no. We're not going to help you, right? I mean, they've turned around. Their representatives in Congress have all said no.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But our representatives have to say yes when they need our money.
Yeah, yeah. Or else we get shamed for it. Those
Right.
selfish New Yorkers.
Right. And then I have to get lectured about social welfare. That's the biggest social welfare in our country.
It's so hypocritical.
Right.
I just you just get lost. But let's see. If I go on, this is it's literally like a dark hole of wordiness.
Well,
That
I
makes no
think
sense.
I think I want to get back to something you said because I really think there's a lot of tie-in locally to it. Is when he talked about I hear a lot about the separation of religion, right? Church and state.
Yep.
And he mentions, coming to the country and being Christian. Okay? As a Jew, I have to sit here and go, well, what I'm American.
Exactly.
I have a First Amendment right. But I'm being told by political officials that my First Amendment right, while they're claiming everybody else is being anti-Semitic, they're telling me I have to be a Christian.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right? Like it's absolutely insane. But I think as much as people are going to probably say I'm being hyperbolic for even saying that because nobody's saying that, blah blah blah. All right, let's put that aside for a second. Okay. The IRS recently changed rules related to religions, saying that religions are allowed to be politically active, okay, and keep their tax exempt status.
Wow.
Okay, so what does that mean? All right, and here's what I'm going to tell you. It means absolutely nothing.
Really?
Right?
Yeah.
It means absolutely nothing because it's very rare, and I don't even know what the statistics are, but it's very rare that a religious organization would ever lose their tax exempt status for either endorsing a political figure or being involved in politics. Okay, listen, I ran for political office in the town of Wallkill. I'm going to tell you, there were plenty of religious organizations that came out and endorsed my opponent, and were like absolutely 100% involved in local politics. Okay, and we see it all over the place. So this is nothing new. This isn't really a new thing. This is just more red meat. out there for for the right. This is
Yeah.
my feeling, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually I am a member of an organization known as what is it now? I forget. It fell right out of my head. Americans United for the separation of church and state. So it's an organization. It's actually run by attorneys who fight cases where they're trying to, let's say, push religion into public schools, and so that kind of thing. One thing I was watching, one of the attorneys does a lot of videos. I haven't seen them in a while, probably because of the algorithm is blocking them from me. But he had posted a video where a preacher in one of these mega churches was saying, "If you're a Democrat, get out of my church. I don't want you in here." It was like really nasty. So these churches are becoming places of recruitment, and places to get votes, and so that's where I think we want church to be about God and spirituality and family, and not it shouldn't be a place of starting culture wars based on political ideology. I just don't think that that's the place for politics.
I partly agree and I partly disagree.
Okay. Okay.
And the show wouldn't be good if we agreed on everything.
I can't
You
argue
know,
with you there.
I mean, the fact is religion has been involved in politics since the dawn of time. You
Mm.
know, the Pope is a hugely political figure.
Oh yes,
You know,
yes,
right? I mean, think about it. He isn't just the head of a religion; he's the head of a state.
yes.
Okay, the Vatican is its own country.
Pretty
Okay, it's
much.
its
Yep.
own state. So, like, not for nothing. I mean, religion has always played a role in politics, and I really don't have a problem with that, except to say that religious organizations should do a better job. You know, like I mean, they should really, if they're going to be involved in politics, they should get to know the candidates. They should understand what they stand for. They should share the same values. And what we found is a corruption of politics and religion, right, all at the same time coming together,
Yes.
right? The fact that religious organization that you have a political figure, you know, basically claiming to be the head of a religious organization or a cult, as it were,
Yes.
right? Just like that letter kind of stated, that, to me, we shouldn't be worshiping, this country was entirely founded on the idea that we didn't want a king.
Right. Right.
I mean,
And we
and
wanted freedom to worship as we please, because even then, back then, there were multiple different versions of Christianity, and if you didn't follow what the king wanted, then you were a heretic. So there's always this. It's a fine
there's
line.
listen, there's always a fine line. I mean, all you have to do is study your history, and you realize that the Anglican Church was founded by King Henry VIII, right? I mean, and he did it so he could get divorced. I mean, like
Yes.
like
Yes.
it was,
Yes.
like an entire religion, right, was set up by the head of state. So we listen. I'm not saying that to make fun of the religion or anything like that, but politics and religion have always gone hand in hand. My issue is when religion gets in the way of good governance, when it gets in the way of good education, when it gets in the way of good science. I mean, then I have a problem. I mean,
And
I
that's
was
kind of
listening.
where we are now. That's
Right.
kind of where we're going, if we don't stop this.
I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day,
I love him.
and I think I mentioned this. I know he's great, with the exception of the Pluto thing. He's great. Anybody who knows me will get that reference, right? Like, because I'm like constantly on the Pluto thing. But I was listening to him, and before 1900, the average lifespan was like 30s. You think about it, you go back to the 1800s. I mean, people weren't living past the age of like 35, like, or 38, like, I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm 51. If I lived in the 1800s, I would have been dead already, like, I mean,
I'd be long dead.
and he was so funny because he says, the advent of 1900, what happened? Science. There were all these scientific, breakthroughs, vaccines, polio vaccine, the way we grow food, the dwarf wheat, right? Like, I mean, all these things occurred
Ways
in
to
the
fill
1900s, right? I mean, you think about what they ate pre 1900. Everything was organic. Right? Like, everything was organic, right? They didn't have the processed food we have today. Everything was organic. And they all died in their 30s, right? Like, I mean, like,
well,
like,
there also there was no antibiotics, there was no vitamins, and so they may have eaten organic, but they may have been that they could have been potatoes. They could have been eating potatoes and celery. That was their diet or whatever.
But the point is right, like, science has made all these advances for us to live longer, but those things come with a price tag. Okay? And as a society, right, we have all agreed in as a country, and the Constitution, right? Like, we have all agreed as a society to pay that cost together. That isn't socialism, that isn't communism, that isn't fascism. That's the contract. That's the social contract that we all make to each other, that we're all going to be beholden to each other and take care of each other as a community. And the question then becomes, are we following it today?
I'm not feeling too confident with what's going on, and that's concerning. So, but anyway, in result, what I'll do is I will put a link in the comments to the Facebook page from Brennan Day, so you can read his very eloquent response. It's long, also. You could read there'll be images of the letter from Senator Martin and the response. It's wild. But I thought that I would just bring that up. I thought it was interesting. It was definitely an interesting topic to discuss.
Listen, I think it has absolute ramifications locally, and a thought in terms of thought process, governance,
Yes.
Our schools, our local government, how we operate as a society as a whole. I think there are so many implications locally to that letter, right?
Yes.
Like, to what he said in that letter, because that isn't isolated. That's not just his belief. There are a lot of people who believe that, and there are a lot of people in power who believe that.
Yeah. Yep. And so, yeah. So anyway, some things to think about. So I wanted to move on because you had something you wanted to bring up that was happening locally here in the town of Wallkill.
Oh, yes. So I learned that a story leaked by the officials here in town, okay, as they like to do, all right, that some officials were overpaid, right, in their payroll, right, and that the officials want to blame the individuals who were overpaid. Okay? So I wanted to bring it up because I think that this is really disingenuous in many ways.
Of course.
Okay? Because, so as a town board member, I had many conversations with the state comptroller's office. That is a whole different story. One of the things that they had discussed with me and the rest of the board was payroll. Okay? And it's one of the things that I talk about. And I think it's important because the bulk of your tax dollars, right, and most people don't realize this, is paid in payroll, in municipal payroll, right? I mean, you think about it, right? You have workers working on your roads. You have workers in, managing our water system. You have workers in the police department. Everything is labor intensive.
Right.
Whether
So
you like it or not, municipalities are labor intensive. Okay? Which means a lot of payroll. You have to pay people a lot of money. And not for nothing, I'm going to tell you, everybody has different rules. Okay? It's not like, working at a, in private company where they have no union. Okay? And everybody gets paid a standard pay and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean,
yeah.
And you receive your bonus once a year and all that. Like, it's not anything like that. You have union contracts. Everybody has different rules because everybody has different seniority and longevity and all these other things. So there's a million different things that go into the payroll. Not only that, you have the stupidity of town boards that decide, and I say that very nicely, that put things in contracts, right, that are completely nuts. And they're so ambiguous. So the town of Wallkill contracts, it's like, you have to do, you have to calculate CPI.
And what is CPI?
Because Consumer Price Index.
Okay.
So every year the employees get, a CPI increase. Well, there's New York CPI, there's the federal CPI, every state has their own CPI, right? Like there are like a million CPI. And then there's CPIs that like include certain things, and then there are CPIs that don't include certain things. It's like a complete and utter mess. Okay? Like, and you as a payroll person have to figure this shit out. Okay? Like,
why I was
not
never
for nothing.
Payroll.
Right. It's exactly the reason why I don't do payroll either. Okay. Even as an accountant, I don't want anything to do with payroll. Right. But somebody has to like review it. Somebody has to oversee it. Right. Like somebody signing the checks.
Of course.
Okay.
Right.
So in your local town, it's your town supervisor. That's their job. They sign the checks. They're supposed to review the payroll for the board, right? Every year, the beginning of the year, they do their reorg. Everybody gets a new salary because of contractual or whatever, right? There's what's called a payroll change report. So you're supposed to then review as a board the payroll change report, like all these things. None of this stuff was actually happening in the town of Wallkill. None of it.
Of course.
Right? Like, God forbid anybody actually want to look at something, right? So when the state comptroller's office was here, right, in the town, right, they had notified us that 300 employees of the town of Wallkill were overpaid. 300! 300! Right. Like, not a small amount. 300, right? So they're going after these two officials, but, like, we're going to ignore the 300 people before him. Like, right. 300 people, right? Including, chief of police, including the commissioner of public works, including, right, like our highway superintendent, like, including, like, these people. And we're not talking, like a few $100s, right? Like tens of thousands of dollars, right? Like, I mean, just completely nuts, right? So they aggregated, like, all of this, okay, and said over the few people that they tested, remember, they don't test everybody. So over the few people that they tested, it was roughly over a 2-year period, like $200,000 that we overpaid town employees. Okay. And I was like, well, how long was it going on? And they said, well, we really only went back like a few years, right? But as far as we could see, this was ongoing since inception. So, over the last decade.
Kidding me.
Right.
Wow.
So over the last decade, you were looking at like maybe $2 million, right, that the town overspent for its employees.
Our tax dollars, by the way.
Our tax dollars. Yeah. Just flew out the door, right? So the supervisor, his response to all this, right? Like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, what we should do is we should get auditors in here, really figure out how to do payroll the right way, make sure that our people are trained, all that kind of stuff, right? That was what I wanted to do. He said, we're going to ignore all that. We're just going to forget it. We're not going to, we don't want to look at it, right? Because it proves that you're right. So we don't want to even talk about it. Nobody's going to look at it, right? Like nothing.
That doesn't.
Right? But now all of a sudden he wants to bring it up again.
Why do you think he's
right?
doing that for these?
It's
these
political reasons. It's political reasons. It's political reasons. Right? Because the two people that were overpaid, he wants to retaliate them for the whole court thing that just happened.
Right. Okay. So it's connected. That was my next question.
Yeah, it's connected. It's connected to our courts, right? And it's just a freaking riot. To me, it absolutely boggles my mind. Boggles my mind.
So right now we could still be having this problem ongoing.
We absolutely are. Absolutely are.
But
it's
we'll
still
just
going
focus on those two positions.
You got to keep in mind, right? Like, they never did the audit. All they did was hire a consultant to come in part-time, 20 hours a week, right? To try to see if they can get this in order, right? These guys are sitting on cash, right? Lots of money, but they don't actually want to pay it to fix the problems.
Wow.
That's just one of the, and to be honest, I was very silent on a lot of this stuff because it gets very wonky and all this other kind of stuff. But if they're going to bring it up as an attack, then you know what? It's fair game. Fair game.
Right.
Fair game. I mean, they one of the other things that they did, so the town runs camp at Boys and Girls Club. Okay. Well, starting back when the comptroller's office came in, you'll see every year they vote on hiring camp counselors and putting them on the town payroll. Right? They never did that prior to the state comptroller's office coming in. So employees were on the town's payroll, right, for which the town was paying money towards them. Okay?
Right.
And me as a board member, I had no idea that was even happening because it never came up for a vote. I had no idea who they were hiring. There was no vetting of these people as far as I know. I didn't know what the vetting was. I don't even know who they hired. Not only that, on top of which, right, it was such a sweetheart deal, okay, so the town pays Boys and Girls Club to run the camp, okay? All the money that they get in terms of revenues, okay, they get to keep that, but then they have to reimburse us for the payroll. Okay? So we bill them for the payroll. But we don't bill them for the payroll. We only bill them for the gross payroll.
Just the total. So in other words, the
aggregate amount, but the town, the taxpayers are paying for the FICA. So the employer share of the FICA, right? Pension, because these people are now town employees, so they now get a pension.
They now get a pension, yep.
Right. So the town was responsible for all that. The taxpayers were responsible for all that.
This is why you guys got to show up at town board meetings, town planning meetings, and show up for elections. Every election. We're having one this November. You need to show up. You need to know who your candidates are. You need to ask questions about what's going on with your money. This is your money.
And listen, I have no... If that's what the public wants and that's what everybody wants, I'm all for that. I really don't have an issue with that if they're providing a good service for the town. What I get, my problem is the lack of disclosure.
Right.
Okay? Right? The idea that we're going to keep this information from the public because that's why the last year I was there, I wanted to see what the financials looked like. 8 years, I had never saw the financials of what was going on.
Did you? But you asked for them, right?
I didn't even know that. Like, listen, I didn't know how anything was operating at the Boys and Girls Club because nobody ever told me. Nothing ever came for a vote. Nothing ever came for a vote. I had no idea. And this isn't to say the Boys and Girls Club did anything wrong. They did everything right as far as I'm concerned. You know, I have no issue with them. I have issues with the way the board managed the whole thing.
Right. Right.
You know, because as a board member, I might have different opinions. So by not informing me, okay, that puts me in a position to agree by abstention. You know, and as a board member, I'm representing those people that voted for me. If I can't represent them, if I don't have the information to know how to vote or to know that a vote is even should even be occurring.
Right.
You know, how do you represent somebody when all the decisions are being made behind closed doors and nothing comes to you?
Right.
How do you effectively you know,
Right, you can't. You can't.
You know.
You can't do
Transparency is a big deal.
that. Yeah. Yep.
You
and
know,
we
especially in your board.
absolutely. And we talk about that a lot. We talk about the importance of transparency, the importance of this is it goes back to what I just said a few minutes ago, showing up at town board meetings last Thursday of every month for the town. That's just the regular board, and then there's the planning board is another meeting, correct? And you got to come in there and you got to ask questions. You got to listen to what they plan on having on the docket, and then you got to ask questions about things. For example, what we just talked about this issue where we've had 300 employees within the town overpaid for years, and nobody did anything about it. Well, nobody's going to complain, right? We're getting more money, so I'm not going to say anything. You know.
And in many instances, the employees had no idea.
Oh,
The
okay.
employees really had no idea. Like, I mean, you know, you think about it, you know, how many people really inspect their paycheck? How many people, so, you know, some of the big issues were like, you know, vacation accruals. How many people, you know, check their vacation accruals?
Well, I never did,
Right.
except what you know.
Except when you needed them,
When you need
you
them.
know?
That's
Right.
exactly.
How many do I have left for the year? Well, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, if your accruals aren't being taken away, you know your vacation time never goes down.
Right.
You know, but technically that's being overpaid. If you're being paid as if you worked and not taking a vacation day, then you were overpaid.
Wow. So when is this article allegedly supposed to be appearing?
Who knows? Maybe this week.
Maybe this week. All right.
I just, you know, my feeling is I've had enough. I've had enough of the media sitting there not reporting on full issues, and the fact is that you know, we as the public deserve to hear, you know, the whole you know, the whole
Right.
truth. You know,
Yep.
especially as it relates to our money. These are financial managers essentially. You know, you know, most people don't pay attention to their 401k, but I bet you anything people would be very upset if they stopped sending the financial statements that you get once a quarter, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you found out that money was being spent on trips to Disney World. You know,
Right.
I
Yes.
think, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
that would be upsetting. You know, well, you know, George took a trip to Disney World on the taxpayer dime. That happened.
Ooh. Yeah. So that's wow.
Again, if you're not being transparent and people don't know what you're doing, this is what happens. You know, this is the advent of being transparent. Is people should know what's going on. I foiled it. You can foil it. You won't get everything, but you'll at least get enough to see the picture.
So, for those who don't know, FOIL or FOIA stands for Freedom of Information Act, and it's a letter that you can write, and you can find forms all over the internet. And so you ask, according to the Freedom of Information Act of whatever, we would like to request this information, blah, 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 blah. These are things that you can do to your town, your state, your federal government to ask for information. So this is what we mean by getting involved. And it's interesting. how, everybody can complain about, the Republicans or the Democrats, or they're all corrupt, and there's so much corruption in Washington, there's so much corruption in Albany, but you fail to look at what the corruption that can be happening in your own backyard. Nobody looks this close. And it's really important because, when it comes to small towns, this is the foundation where that kind of trickles upwards to state and federal levels. You need to see what's happening on the ground so you can, first of all, make those people accountable, and then you can work your way up.
We talk about, I mean, just as you mentioned, right? We talk about where's your money? Your money is, a lot of times we talk about development, or you talk about developers or whatever. I mean, they're all subject to your local zoning laws. I mean, we're seeing that with Amazon and Wawayanda, right? This is all your local officials. So there are millions of dollars flowing through your community, and you have public officials that are making, you have councilmen making $15,000 a year, okay? And you have a supervisor here in the town of Wallkill making $120,000 a year. But what? Let's look at the cars, right? I mean, one of them is sitting there driving his Lexus, and the other one sitting there has a couple Porsches in his backyard. I mean, I'm not saying that they're doing anything, but it's like,
yeah. So where's your money going?
Where's your money going? You got to ask the question. I mean, George came out the other day about the fairgrounds, right? Because that was a hot topic.
Well, yes, this is another thing I wanted to bring up also. So might as well go into that.
Right.
So we have, I'm sure those of you in the know, we have the Orange County Fairgrounds over in Middletown behind 211, behind that shopping center. I still call it the the Ames Shopping Plaza, Ames Caldor Shopping Plaza, but it's behind there, and I guess it's been up for sale for a while, and we wanted the town to buy it so we could keep it as or sell it off for.
I think people just didn't want it developed. Right? I mean, because you look at people didn't want high density housing, and they didn't want a warehouse.
Right. We got enough warehouses already,
and we got a lot of high density housing over there. So those two things people didn't want. Okay, so I think the rumor had it that the owner of the fairgrounds was under contract with a warehousing company, that he wants to sell it to a warehousing company, but the property that the fairground sits on is not zoned for warehousing.
Good.
It was until the board decided to go through their master plan review.
And this is for the property.
Great. So, the statement of we don't want to buy it, or we can't afford it. There could be a million other things that would be believable other than we cannot afford it, right? I mean, because they're sitting on what? They got $15 million, $20 million in cash right now, just sitting in a bank account, not doing anything.
Oh my God.
Right? Oh yeah, no, it's insane. And that's even with losing the $400,000. I mean, that's even with losing the $400,000, right? That's a different story, though. And you listen, how much down? $5 million down. You finance the $15 million over, 30 years or whatever. The town could easily do that. What's more believable, though? The town has no ability to operate a racetrack, a dirt track like that. Absolutely no ability whatsoever. They can't even manage a golf course. Which they've owned now for and have lost $1 million a year on. They can't even manage a golf course. Giving them the operation of the fairground, it just ain't gonna happen. Okay? So, if George had said, listen, we have incompetent management at town hall and we can't do this, I would believe that. Right? I would believe that. Without doubt. if he came out and he said, listen, we have no idea what our financial condition is. We can't even get an AFR done, like an annual financial report done, right? We can't get our audits done. I would totally believe that, because they can't. If they had said, we tried to go out for bonding again, but because we can't get our annual financial reports done and we can't get our audits done, right? We no longer can get bonding for an acquisition like this. I would believe that. Listen, I'm not saying that that's happened, but I would believe that. Okay. The other side of that too is what are they paying taxes now? Hey, we can't afford to lose, from a municipal standpoint, the taxes that could be derived from that property. And taking that piece of property off the tax rolls doesn't make any sense. And we would likely have to subdivide it and sell it anyway. Completely understandable, right? You have to start looking at the reality of what the fairgrounds is. It's really unrealistic for the town to buy the fairgrounds. But the town, here's what the town can do. The town can influence what goes there next.
Right.
Through proper zoning. Okay? But that's not going to happen.
What do you think they would do? Go for another warehouse?
No, I think they're under contract for a warehouse, so I think that they're going to put a warehouse there.
Oh my God.
I really have no doubt that that's what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm not a part of that scene, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to end up being a warehouse.
Town of Wallkill is going to become town of warehouses. Seriously, how many warehouses? Empty warehouses. Ain't nobody renting them. For rent signs on these gigantic mega warehouses.
My thing is I don't have a particular issue with warehouses. I mean, warehouses are needed. We're becoming a more distribution society than a retail society, right? More people are shopping online. You need to be able to get your inventory. Everybody wants their crap in 2 days, right? Like 2 days means it's different, I'm like going, well, I don't need this shit in 2 days, so I'm clicking give me the extra 6% on my rewards. You can, I'll take it by the end of the month, I don't need it tomorrow, right?
I need it now.
Right, I don't get it. But listen, I'm not. What my issue is that they're going everywhere. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. And that to me is you're plopping warehouses in the middle of residential. This town has always kind of looked it, but now it's even looking more like there's no planning. There's no municipal planning going on. They did. So if you look down by East Main Street, okay, they have a hotel, a Quick Check, right? They're building another hotel. They have workforce housing down there. They have commercial properties down there. Okay,
an apartment complex.
And apartment complex, and they're building a warehouse.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's
all on top of each other.
Yeah. Yep. That's where that new that's a new Dunkin' Donuts, right? They're the 19th Dunkin' Donuts in Middletown because we don't have enough of them already.
Listen, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. We do not have enough Dunkin' Donuts in town.
Oh, Dunkin'.
Any time of day you go, you got a long line. I swear to God, the line goes all the way out to 211. I can't. We do not have enough Dunkin' Donuts in this town.
I'm a Starbucks person myself.
Oh,
and now those are starting to. Oh God! Now those are starting to expand. So you got your choice. Within 2 minutes, I could walk. Let me tell you, you could walk on foot from one Dunkin' Donuts while you're drinking your iced coffee, whatever, iced latte, and by the time you're done with it, you'll be at the next Dunkin' Donuts to refill.
Did you? I think there's a place in Texas, right? There's literally a place in Texas where there are 2 Starbucks right across the street from each other. You literally walk out of one Starbucks and are facing another Starbucks.
Okay, that's just insane. But then again, I like Starbucks. So if one has a long line, maybe it's not so bad at the other one. But yeah, now we've got, and now pretty much it's like Starbucks is showing up where Dunkin' Donuts is. It's like, no way, you ain't getting our coffee, our coffee. So this is what's happening. But yeah, I know that spot that you're talking about. It's just a weird, and you've got the hospital right there. That's also practically attached to that property.
The only thing is for years I've been advocating for like the widening of East Main and the paving of East Main, and they finally did it this year. I'm not in office anymore, and they finally did it this year, which was great. I spent 8 years advocating for that. The only thing they can't do is that damn bridge. They got to get, like that's another thing. I mean, it's a DOT-owned bridge. Can't be expanded, so it needs to go.
You're talking the one that goes over 17.
No, the one that goes over 84. I think it's the one that goes over 84 down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is getting kind of ratty, so it needs it. Well, when it rusts out, maybe that's when they'll finally realize it needs to be done.
I went to the DOT, so I went to that meeting that happened a few years ago because they're now doing all that work on Route 17, right by exit like 122.
122.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's a mess.
So they're redoing that. That's phase 2. Okay, so there are actually 3 phases, so they're gonna redo it again. Okay, right. So for phase 3. Okay, I pushed them to redo that bridge in phase 3, and they said they would consider it.
So all right. So, in other words, that's not going to be done, but we'll do phase 3.
Listen. You have to ask, and if you ask enough, you never know. You never know. Maybe you can get that into phase 3.
My God, life in a small town. So this is what we deal with.
This is what we talk about all day.
Seriously, offline too. Like we can go for hours. So, and that actually brings me to this might be our final point here. Neil and I were brainstorming. It seems like the things that we talk about actually could impact small towns across the country. So I've been working on a plan to create sort of a sister podcast to go along. We're not going anywhere. The TOWTalk. I like TOWTalk better than TOWTalk because I kept because town talk. Anyway, this would be a small town politics podcast that would focus on issues in politics that impact small towns across the country, and how we want more people to get involved locally with what's happening and not just sit back and, focus on just every 4 years elections or every 2 years elections, and not and bypass what's really happening, not just in your small town, but on your school boards and in your county positions. There's so much. There are literally thousands of elections that occur across the country in small towns that you would be surprised that impact you, impact your school's curriculum, impact your town planning board. We just had a conversation here about, warehouses popping up in the oddest of places. So this is what my plan is. I'll be making an announcement once we're ready to go forward. And so, yeah, we're gonna be really busy. It's gonna be good doing a lot of talking. If I recorded the conversations that we had even before we just start recording, we'd be talking for hours. So we have so much information that we want to bring to you, and hopefully you can use this information, and it helps you to make better decisions about elections, about coming to town boards and hearing what's happening and having a good list of questions that you can go and ask. Definitely hold your elected leaders, whether you're in the town of Wallkill, city of Middletown, wherever, hold them accountable. Ask your questions, get your answers. And if you're not happy with the answers, go above them. Or ask us.
Right. And that's what I was about to add is listen, come join us on our show.
Yeah.
All right. We would love to have you. We would love to hear what's happening in your community. we'd love if you're a local official and want to come on and hang with us, please do. We want to hear from you. So please comment, please like us, please follow us, and remember, if you want to be a part of what we're doing, ask us. We would love to have you on and talk to you.
Definitely. All right. So I look for my announcement on. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you got any comments, drop a comment below or a heart. Tell us that you're appreciating us, and we will see you soon. Have a great night. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.